Soren Kierkegaard wrote about the preacher of repentance in his Christian Discourses, published April 26, 1848, and translated by the Hongs in 1997. This quotation is from pages 191 through 193, Part 3, Thoughts that Wound from Behind. If God is love, then it is self-evident that all things must serve for good those who love God. But from God's being love, it does not at all follow that you believe that God is love, or that you love him. But if you believe, then it is self-evident that you must believe that all things serve you for good, because this is indeed implicit in what you believe about God. In the one case, it is the individual who presumes to want to become thoroughly familiar with God, so to speak, and to demonstrate something about him, demonstrate that he is love, and what follows from that. In the other case, the individual humbly understands that the issue is whether he believes that God is love, because if he believes this, then everything else follows without any demonstration. From the demonstration, nothing follows for me. From faith, everything follows for me. So then, the discourse is about this when, and thus about faith, which of all the goods is the highest and the only true good. Of all other goods, it holds true that there is still a but, that they have a side from which it becomes doubtful whether this good is indeed a good, whether it would not have been better for one not to have received this good. But faith is the good that is of such a nature that if you believe, provided that you do believe, when you believe, insofar as you do believe, even if what you most feared did happen to you, you will in faith understand that it must be the best for you, that is, a good. Although doubt has power over everything that is ordinarily called goods, power to make them dubious, faith has power over all the good and over all the evil that can befall you, power to make it undoubted that it is a good. All things must serve us for good when we love God. Imagine someone who possesses all the goods of good fortune, is untroubled by all pain and adversity, unacquainted with any suffering or danger, indulged in his every wish, envied by the petty-minded, considered fortunate by the young. Does he dare to consider himself fortunate? Yes, when he believes that God is love, because then all these things serve him for good. When, it is a bad little word, this when. Yes, woe to the person who ventures to cast doubt about God into another person's heart, because all this doubt is sinful, and to awaken this doubt in another is to seduce. But honor be to the person, praise be to him, thanks be to him, the earnest one, who has no fear of awakening in another person the doubt that teaches him to have doubts about himself, the doubt that is the origin of self-concern. Therefore, when? This when, it is the preacher of repentance. Perhaps you think that a preacher of repentance is like a rushing violent wind that terrifies physically. No, the true preacher of repentance, like God's voice, also comes in a gentle breeze. Yet it is not soft, but rigorous as the earnestness of eternity. The true preacher of repentance has only one aim, to press hard on you or me, on the single individual, to wound him in such a way that he himself now becomes essentially his own preacher of repentance. Take care with this when. In another sense, see to it that you love this when, because if you do not, you will be your own downfall. But take care with this when. If it has struck you, It can perhaps take you ages before you are finished with it, or rather, if in truth it has struck you, you will never be completely finished with this when, nor should you be either. This when becomes like an arrow in your heart. It will remain there until the end. Therefore do not be afraid of the preacher of repentance, who perhaps has terror in his countenance and wrath in his voice, who scolds and castigates and thunders. All this is just a game, and becomes merely a kind of shuddering entertainment. Now, deep within every person's heart, there dwells his preacher of repentance. If he speaks, he does not preach to others. He does not make you into a preacher of repentance. He preaches only to you. He does not preach in any church to an assembled crowd. He preaches in the secret recesses of the soul, and to you, whether you want to listen to him or not. He has nothing whatever to attend to than to attend to you. And he sees to it that he is heard at the moment when everything around you is still, when the stillness makes you completely solitary. You fortunate one, you whom so many envy and so many consider fortunate, if you are wounded by this when, or if you have wounded yourself on it, you will seek in vain to find rest in any one else's assurance that you are fortunate. Yes, even if all people join together in order to assure you of that, it will not give you the slightest certainty. You are dealing with yourself, with the preacher of repentance in your own inner being. He does not use many words. He is too well informed for that. He says only when.